Hi, my name is Keith Mikolite. I'm an applications engineer at Cypress Semiconductor. I'm here to walk you through CapSense design on your new 050 board. So I got my 050 board here, and I'm going to open up PSOC Creator 3.1. Now, PSOC Creator comes with a number of example projects and startup designs, and that's what we're going to make use of today. So I can go to File, Example Project. I know I want to be doing CapSense, so I'm going to type in CapSense up here, and CapSense CSD design is what we're going to be using. I'm going to create a new workspace, throw it on the desktop so I can find it again. And now the first thing that pops up when you open up an example project is the datasheet. This datasheet walks you through all the different parts of the example project, different connections on the kit, how to use it with different kits, all that kind of stuff. So now if we go into our project, the first thing we'll take a look at is the schematic. So today we're going to be using CapSense, and that uses this CapSense component. If you wanted to find this on your own, you could come over here to the component catalog, and you could just type in CapSense. And here, this is what we're using right here. So we click and we would drag that onto our schematic. Once you have it on your schematic, you can open this up. Our default settings are going to be one channel, no noise filtering. What's important here though is that we're going to have two buttons and a linear slider today. So if you wanted to add a button, you click on buttons and you hit add button. If you want to add a slider, you click on slider, add slider. Buttons here, these thresholds have been set based on the firmware, based on testing. Same with this linear slider. You can choose your resolution. So an API resolution of 100 means we're going to get a report of 0 to 100 of our position. That's what we need to know about the CapSense block. What we're going to do with the CapSense is when one of the buttons are pushed, it's going to light up one of these two LEDs. And on the slider, we're going to have a bar graph on our LCD that goes up and down with our finger. We can open up our LCD component and see that we've selected horizontal bar graph. So now we can go over to the code. Almost every single PSOC Creator component will come with a Start API. And that API is going to apply all the settings we just saw in the configuration tools into the correct registers and then kick off the components. So we call LCD Start and CapSense CSD Start to start our LCD in CapSense. We load our custom font, which is going to be our bar graph. We set up our position, we enable interrupts, and then we call this function CapSense initialize all baselines. And what that's going to do is it's going to get an initial reading of all of our sensors so that we can then look for a difference in the sensor when our finger touches down. Then we enter into our forever loop next. And what we do in our forever loop is we update those baselines. So we scan and update every round. We kick off the next scan. And then we wait for the CapSense component to finish its scan. Once it's done, we call this function displayState, which is down here just south of main.c. And what displayState is going to do is it's going to check the current status of each one of the buttons and the slider and update the associated hardware. So we can call this check is it widget active to check if a button currently has a finger on it. If it's true, we're going to write a 1 to turn on that LED. If it's false, we're going to write a 0 to turn off that LED. Then we can come down here to the slider section of the code, and in here we call CapSense get centroid position. And what this does is it's going to go in there, it reads actually all of the sensors in the slider, and then based on the signal on each one of those sensors, it's going to return a position of the finger based on a centroid calculation. So down here we check to make sure that the finger's moved, so that if the finger is not on there, we're not constantly updating. And if it's a new position, we're going to set the height of that horizontal bar graph accordingly. So one thing that we have to do, because we opened up this example project just out of the box, it's actually made for PSOC 3 on a 001 kit. So it's a couple of things we have to do to make it ready for this kit here. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to go to the device selector, and we're going to choose PSOC 5 instead of PSOC 3. And one of the things you can do in here, you can come in, you can go to the family, right click, and say select default device. And we're going to select PSOC 5 LP. That'll automatically select the associated part that comes on our kits. I also need to switch the pins for this specific kit. We come into our design-wide resources files, .cydwr, on the pins tab. If you look over here on the right, this is our physical location for all those pins that we put on our schematic. Now these pins, they're all set up for the 001 board, so I need to redo this. And I know that CMOD is on P64 on this kit, so I'm going to change that. And if you look down here at this kit, you can see where the buttons and the slider sensors are based on the silk screen on the board. So button 0 is going to be P55. Button 1 is going to be P56. And then our slider is P50 to P54. It's a 5-element slider. Our LCD's on P2 6 to 0. That's the same on each board. And then our LEDs on this board are actually on P6.2 and P6.3. All right. So I can build my application. Check to see if I made any errors. So now we built without any errors. I can come up here and I can click Program. And we can see that when I press this button, our LEDs are lighting up. And I have a bar graph that is adjusting with my finger. So now you've got a fully functional CapSense design. For more information, see Cypress.com.